move together. And the black over here is not printed, the black over there is not printed. So this is a lot of empty space. Another example, side by side, is my monkey shirt over here. I don't know about you, but I like monkeys. And let me just have Carlos come over here. Carlos, this shirt and this shirt, there's one big difference. Can you touch this one for me and touch this one for me and say which one you like more?
Definitely, I like this more.
So what's the difference? What can you say?
This one is feel like plastic. It's very hard. It's not that soft like this one.
So this one is much softer. Okay, the difference over here, I don't know if this camera can catch it up already. Just move it around so you can see the light reflection. This here is printed solid, and we use our sophisticated measuring tool, only available in Germany, 3 fingers. And these here are closed spaces bigger than 3 fingers. Like the letters here are okay, there's enough empty space over here if I take my measuring tool. But all these apes here, they are 2 large closed spaces. So let me just zoom in for you, change the camera angle over here. And also what you can see very likely is that the black is not the same black as the shirt. So this looks a little bit off. And it always reflects a little bit light. And when there's light reflection on a dark color, it always looks less dark. Now we just take the same shirt with the black knocked out, move it a little bit around, and we can see that there's no light reflection because all the black that we see over here is the garment color again. Again, we use our measuring tool. We can see if we use 3 fingers, there is a lot of empty space. This is nice and soft. And side by side, because we only knocked out the color, we didn't rasterize, this actually looks a little bit better because there's less light reflection. So rule number 1 that you can take away is if there is a closed space bigger than 3 fingers, like this one over here, do something. Knock out the color, rasterize, but you have to do something, otherwise it feels plasticky. Rule number 2, if you print the same color as the shirt, just knock it out. Let me just show you another example. This one here is like a complete solid surface over here. And let me just hold this on the camera. Like this one here is a complete solid surface, this half skull over here. And it makes this crankly, papery noise. And a good way to get rid of it is just by knocking out, in this case, the black color. Let me just show this from the top. We don't need the text actually, we just need this here side by side. And here we can see that we have, this looks like a little bit grayish over here, this part, because there is toner and there's not shirt. This one is shirt. If I touch this one over here, we just hold it on the microphone. You can barely hear something because we have enough empty space. Let me just show this side by side, and we move close up. So you can see exactly where the empty space is. So here we left everything solid, except these little black areas over here. Like there's a black area, there's a black area, there's one. If you go over, there's always a black area in between where we can use the shirt for. And this allows us to give us enough empty spaces, like here in the teeth, so we are never bigger than 3 fingers. We can use the same technique also in the rib. Do you know how to knock out the color in the rib, or should I go over it?
I would go over it.
Let's just go over it. Just change this here quickly. Open my rib for you. And there we are. So here we are now in TransferRIP. We have a similar design. And this here is in step 3. So we already loaded in our picture. And down here, in this area, this is the color removal, like this white bar over here. If you don't do anything, this is just white. We can open this window up, And now it asks us for a sigma k value. Often we don't know the value that we want to remove, but we can also just point and click. Let's say we want to remove black. Or in this case, it's not really black, it's like a dark charcoal gray, but we want to remove it. As soon as we click on it, we see the sigma k value over here. So save this one. Now it doesn't remove it immediately. It asks us for a removal tolerance here on the right-hand side. And if I go with a very low value, like a 1 or like a 2, it will just remove the very exact color, just this dark gray over here. We had here and here. You can see that the inner tires over here and this color over here is a different shade of black or dark gray. If you want to remove that as well, you can simply increase the tolerance. Let's just use a 5. And it's gone as well. So we can really fine tune the color that we want to remove via this tolerance over here. My recommendation here is just be brave, just take out more than you actually think is necessary. It gives us a softer look, especially when it comes to dark colors. If we don't want to remove black, but we want to remove, for example, green, we can do the same thing. I just went back to 0, so every color comes back. We open the same window. So we open the same window, and we just click on green this time. Same thing with tolerance. Let's just use a very low value, like a 2 or a 3, and all the green is gone. This is how we remove a color.
Question, Chris. Can
Yes,
more than
please.
one color be removed from the same design?
Yes, with a trick. Let me just show you the little trick. Let me just go back into TransferRIP. There we are. So let's say we want to remove black and green for some reason, or black and brown. First, we have to change the colors. So we go over this color change tool. And on the first bar, source color, we just click on black. And our target color on the right-hand side is green. So what we do now in the first instance is we make everything that is black or dark gray into green. And here's the tolerance. We just use 10, so there's something in the middle. Now everything that is black or was black is now green. And if I now want to remove the green color, just save this over here. Go up with the tolerance, use a 3. Everything that was black and everything that was green is now removed. Not completely, because I have to increase the tolerance. Like a 6, and there we go.
Awesome trick.
So let me just proceed with the presentation. Because the next thing is I want to give you an overview about the different masking options. Like, let's say we can't knock out the color because all the colors in the design is something that I want to print. I'm printing, let's say, the monkey design that is, just move it up, like the monkey design that is like a sand tone with white and black on a red t-shirt. So there's no red that I can knock out. And but there's no enough empty space. So I want to rasterize this in some way. And one way to do this is with rasterization in TransferRIP. Let me just show you how we can do that.
Hey, Chris, I have a question.
Yes.
If we perform rasterization to our graphic as opposed to not doing it, would you say in terms of washability, you're getting, let's say, like a certain percentage of extended washability by rasterizing as opposed to not?
Yeah, it depends a little bit on the image. If it's a full square, like a complete 11 by 17 sheet that is like a holiday picture or something, or a portrait of somebody, if that's a solid graphic, you probably get about 5 to 10 washes out of it before it looks broken up and ugly, and you see all these white adhesive areas coming out. While with rasterization, if it's properly done, about 40 to 50 washes. So it's a factor of 20%. Like non-rasterized is 20% life expectancy of a rasterized image.
So basically, by employing rasterization and opening up the graphic, so to speak, we're letting water in the wash cycle flow through the design. It doesn't distress the design, and that's what's giving us the better washability?
Exactly. So let me just give you an overview about the different masking options or rasterization options that the RIP provides us. In total, these are 3. If we use screening from printer, we just signalize that we want to screen as it is. So don't want to apply rasterization. And this graphic over here that I'm just showing on a black screen over here, we have 3 options. Mask screening is configured as a mask recommended for bright media, a very long term. We just call it bright mask. Then we have screening is configured as a mask recommended for dark media. Let's just call this dark mask, just to make it a little bit shorter, because Germans and their titles are pretty long. And then we have the micro mask, which is surprisingly a short title. Let me just show you my examples over here. I used the same design and applied just different masks to it. Let me just show you this side by side. So this here is the dark mask. What the dark mask does is it recognizes that the image goes onto a dark colored shirt, preferably black. Everything that is black in the image, like here on the zebra blood over here, all the black parts are taken out. Everything that is dark but not completely black, like the toucan color where we have a couple of shades, it prints very large dots or very large broken up lines. Every time there is perfect white, like here on the zebra as well, or on the text, it doesn't rasterize it at all. And everything in between, like here the blues and the cheetah over here, it varies with the rasterization hole size. The lighter something is, the smaller the dots or the smaller the holes become. And here on the darker part, here where the shadow is, the lines become a little bigger or they go through it completely. Opposed to it, to the dark mask, is the bright mask. In this scenario, we do the complete opposite. We just go over it for you. And here in the zebra again, we can see that white is taken out completely. We don't print white at all with the bright mask. But black is kept completely solid. And every other color in between gets rasterized depending on how dark it is. So if you look here at the cheetah, we can see that the dark parts over, just to see what it is, there it is. The dark parts over here, we have more solid areas, and on the lighter parts, it takes out more of the color. And last but not least, we also have the micro mask. On the micro mask, we basically tell the RIP software, hey, I don't know which shirt color I'm printing on. Please put lines in every color the same way. So if I go down here, you can see that the white and the black are both printed, but it puts lines or dots or squares or whatever we decide for throughout the entire image. This is called micro mask. In this case, we use a micro mask percentage of 14%. Because the image by itself already contains some open space, like here in the middle between the cheetahs.
Hey, Chris, in a
Yes.
way, when we're selecting which screening option to use, is it our way of telling the RIP what color we plan to decorate?
Almost, yes. There are some exemptions. We go over that as well. But it's a rough guideline. Dark media signals the RIP, hey, I'm printing on a dark t-shirt. Bright mask tells us, hey, I'm printing on a white t-shirt. Please don't print white. Whatever is dark or black, please keep solid. And the micro mask just tells the RIP, hey, just put lines or dots equally in every color, which can make sense also dark and light shirts, depending on the circumstances, depending on the graphic. But we go over that in detail with the next couple of examples. We just move them all to the side. And now we're going over to print portraits. Because a lot of you do print portraits. At least that's what you guys told me 2 years ago at the last open house. You probably recognize this gentleman over here. This is Jay-Z. And we're printing him with a dark mask, shadow tolerance 180, a bright mask, shadow tolerance 100, and also a micro mask here on our burgundy shirt. And in all cases, we can see that the image looks a little bit different in every case. If we would use the micro mask on this or this shirt color, it would look the same, more or less. Like this image would look the same. On the dark mask, we have a lot of contrast. Let me just show it to you in detail. So here we have dark mask, and what I did over here is I took out everything that was the hair completely because I don't need it. I can use the black shirt for it. And if I zoom in, for example, in the eyes, the darker something is, for example, the shadows over here, which is a very dark brown, it uses more of the shirt color. And the lighter something is, like here, the eyeballs over here, here we almost don't place any lines or any dots in there. Just tiny little dots because it's not perfect white. And then we create a high amount of contrast, which looks great on portraits. On portraits, I prefer to use a higher shadow tolerance, so we can create a higher contrast as well, but use more of the shirt color and soften it up a little bit. So
hey, Chris, we have a question.
Yes?
Someone was asking if the Forever TransferRIP works with just Oki-based systems, or can you use them for other white tone or laser systems on the market?
It depends a little bit on the system. You can use it on Oki-based systems, like the C711, the 8432, the 9541. You can use it also on some unit printers, but not all of them. Some unit printers are based on an Oki, like the Uninet iColor 600 or the Uninet iColor 500, which are basically the older models. The newer ones, the 550 or 560, these ones will not work with TransferRIP because they're based on a different model.
Thank you.
So this here is the, just so you can see it, this here is the bright mask, shadow tolerance 100. What we can see over here is the black is printed completely solid over here. So if I touch this, this is a little bit papery, but this here is just okay because it's not bigger than 3 fingers, at least not over the entire surface. And wherever there is some light in the image, like over here where the lights were, it takes out more color. So the bright mask takes out colors more aggressively than the dark mask would do. So if you compare this side by side, this would look by itself pretty awesome. But if you compare it to the dark mask basically just offers more color vibrancy and more shadows because this is simply how our human eyes work. If we have a dark background and something light on top, it just pops out more for our human brains than if we have something dark on a light garment.
Hey, Chris, another question.
Yes.
Someone noticed the slight white halo around the JZ design on the black shirt.
Yes. This one over
is
here.
there a way that you could get rid of that halo within the RIP?
Absolutely. That is done in step 4, where we have the white control. I can show it to you later on if we move on to the next image. There is a step 4, there is a white control, there is a setting called preserve partial transparency. This will reduce any partial transparencies. This here is basically coming from a partial transparency, so it stops filling white in there. Another function would be the underfilling, which is basically a choke, where it cuts off white pixels. And the last one over here is the micro mask. On the micro mask, this time I'm using 22%. As you can see, the fine text over here got rasterized as well, while the fine text on the black image, because it's white, didn't get rasterized. I just got stuck on a cable. There we are. And if we zoom into this a little bit closer, we can see the fine lines. And this will be stretchable, this will be breathable, and if I wash this, this will wash just fine. If we do the same, I would say all 3 of these cases will work. If we use the same settings on something with a lighter skin color like Ricky over here, it will still look great on a dark shirt because there's a lot of light areas. And as we mentioned before, something light on a dark background pops for human eyes more than something dark on a bright background, like this one over here. And we always saw with JZ that this area over here, where the highlight is, like this, like the lights where it's shining onto him, here it takes out colors more aggressively, so it looks a little bit pale, actually too pale for the image. So what we could do, for example, is just use the micro mask instead for a dark shirt. Also over here, we can see that the hat, the black hat as he's wearing, is very solid, very black, and there is no rasterization points in there. Let me just show you this as a close-up so we can see this a little bit better. So here we can see all the rasterization points. This is all nice and soft. But as soon as we move over here, this here is very solid. And if we use our measuring device, our 3 fingers, this is still not broken up enough. So this here will break and crack if we wash it this way. So a good way to use this design also on a white t-shirt would be, in this case, the micro mask. In the micro mask, again, we do use all colors equally. And if I want to stretch this one, we still can do this because this here is still stretchable. There's still enough empty space. And we do not distort the shirt. What you also can do is you can combine the micro mask with the color removal. For example, if we print this on a white t-shirt, we can use the micro mask, but instead of printing the white teeth, we can just knock them out beforehand. So this part would be even softer. Just coming out of the way. Let me just get the shirts out of the way for you. Let's just talk about doing vector graphics. Like this one over here, for example. With t-shirts or with portraits, we have a lot of gradients in the graphic. Like we don't have the very exact same color all over. It's basically a brown, a dark brown that goes to a middle brown, to a light brown, and it just transitions smoothly. On vector images or illustrations like this one, we do have pretty harsh color breakups. Like here is the red. Just use this camera.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
Question here. When you're using the rasterization or the micro mask, in a way, you're kind of cracking the graphic to keep it from cracking in the washer and dryer, correct?
Correct, yes. It's basically controlled cracking. And if you use the mask for dark, we're telling the RIP that we're going onto a dark surface. For example, when you look here, the shadow over there, let me just position the camera a little bit better, so this is better. If we use this, we look at the shadow over here, it takes out a lot of the image, while when we look at the egg or the Naruto over there, it's almost solid. This is not perfect white, this is like a little egg white color. Let me just zoom in here. There we go. You can see that there's just tiny lines in there, but it's almost solid. If you compare this to a micro mask, this color is broken up completely, the same way as this color. But our shadows over here look more vibrant. We just removed the black parts, we just knocked out the color, and we're using a couple of lines over here to break it up additionally. So if we compare this side by side, what we can see is that the mask, for the dark mask, takes out dark color stronger, so we have more contrast, especially over here. This we can see it over here and here, and a little bit on the red. I would say the red on the micro mask is more vibrant on a dark shirt than the dark mask because it creates bigger spaces in red, so it can turn a little bit brownish because our eyes will mix the red color that's printed together with the blank empty space that's there, which is black, and it creates some sort of a brownish color. While this here is more like a solid red over there. So whenever we have something that is not a gradient, like another photograph, I would recommend using a micro mask instead of a dark mask because it keeps the balance between the colors more like it initially was. and especially our darker colors like our reds and our dark greens have more vibrancy, they have more punch to it. Same example over here, like this is a very popular design, like something for text and an image in front of it. And typically we have like the circular designs with a couple of colors. And here we want to keep the balance between the colors the way it was intended. If I use the mask for dark, like the dark mask over here, just move it a little down, we can see that we have bigger spaces in the red. Then we have spaces in the yellow. I hope the camera can pick this up from here. Like here, the yellow is still a little bit solid, so this is not as soft as it should be, while the red has more empty space. If we use the micro mask as an example, the red is completely broken up, so this is soft and stretchable. If I stretch this apart, it just follows the direction of the lines. But the yellow has the same pattern as the orange, as the red. So this way, we do keep the balance between the colors as we designed it in Photoshop or Corel Draw. And I would use for a design like this, I would use the micro mask as well. Here in this case, I use 22% because this is a pretty solid design. And if it's pretty solid, I use micro mask 22%. If it's a little bit more open space, like the zebra design, I use more like 16 or 14%.
Hey, Chris.
Let's just talk a little bit about the different dot sizes and dot shapes.
Can I throw in a quick question, Chris?
Yes, please.
Someone was asking, when you employ the rasterization, what kind of effect it has on cost of printing with your toner, and if there's a way that the RIP can calculate the cost of the print.
Yes, absolutely. The RIP, let me just change the camera for you. Absolutely. So the RIP can calculate the total printing costs. And generally, you can say if you print without a RIP completely, like printing directly out of CorelDRAW or printing directly out of Photoshop, you will have about 40 to 60% higher toner costs compared to a rasterized printout. The most cost saving comes from the saving of white toner. And the saving of white toner occurs only when you print through a RIP. You can't save white toner by printing out of Photoshop because basically you can't control the amount of white toner placed behind your colors. Rasterization typically reduces the printing costs of about 15 to 20%, depending a little bit on the image by itself. And there is at the very end, down at the bottom, let me just show you this real quick.
Thank you, Chris. And just to let you know, we're at the 10-minute warning.
10-minute warning, so I have to speed up. Down here, there's a cost calculation function. If we push that, it will calculate the costs for us. So let's just talk about different dot sizes and dot shapes real quick. So we can, of course, use different dot sizes, dot shapes in TransferRIP. Everything that you saw today was this 30. And typically, I stay in between 25 and 30 for pretty much all my graphics. If you use a 10 or like a 20, you get softer prints, better washable prints, but the image quality will suffer a little bit, the color vibrancy will suffer a little bit. And if you use, on the other hand, like a 35 to a 40, the image is more detailed, more vibrant, but it's also a little bit stiffer. And you always want to achieve a balance between image quality and in between softness. And that's why I usually say between 25 and 30. We also have different dot shapes, like Euclidean, rounds, squares, lines, and so on. And my absolute favorite is the line raster, because if you apply it vertically, following the weave of your cotton garment or your polyester garment, you stretch it, it just follows the weave of the garment. And you can create crazy stretch with the technique. Let me just show you one example over here. So this here is a polyester shirt, polyester sports shirts are typically very, very stretchy. If I stretch this out, the image just comes back nicely. Let me just show you this close up. So over here, let's just take the wheels over there. Where is it? There it is. And if I stretch this, it just follows the weave and it comes back. There are no visible cracks, nothing. It just comes back as it was before. That's why I love the lines so much. Another big factor is the shadow tolerance. Let me just have this design again. Let's say we do not knock out black, but we use just the mask for dark media. And sometimes we don't have perfect black in our image. So if I look closely over here, we can see that a couple of dots are printed. And it just looks a little bit odd because when we only use the mask for dark media, we do not knock out black, then quite often we don't work with perfect blacks. Like for example, an RGB black would be not a perfect black for toner printing. And then it prints a couple of dots to imitate these shadows. And a good way to remove these shadows to get smoother transitions is the shadow tolerance. Let me just show you two side by side. So over here, in this image, we use the dark mask with a shadow tolerance of 100. This here is a dark mask with a shadow tolerance of 180, so a higher shadow tolerance. If we zoom in, let me just zoom out a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. We can see that this black over here got printed, so it throws in a couple of dots. Let me just zoom in a little bit. There we are. And we don't want to have that. Same here on the hair of these guys over here. This is like a picture from a vacation in Tokyo. And we actually don't want to print all these little dots here because we just want to keep this hair black. And if I increase my shadow tolerance to 180, like in this example, we can see that the transition from the shirt to the actual print is much, much smoother. See, all this black is gone. Here with 100 we had it, and with 180, more of the dark colors will be recognized as pure black, like also in the hair, and will not get printed. So the higher the shadow tolerance is, the more of the dark colors will be recognized as black and will be taken out, which is great if you have photographic images like this example over here with the streets of Shinjuku in Tokyo. But it can have a downside effect with the shadow tolerance. This here again is shadow tolerance 180. Let me just clean this up for you. There we go. Almost. And place two shirts side by side to each other. What you can see immediately is this here is more vibrant than this here. These are both lines, both 30, both masks for dark media or dark mask. The only difference here is the shadow tolerance. And especially if we look it up a little bit closer, this here is the shadow tolerance 180. And we can see that the dark red areas are broken up quite significantly. So we have bigger empty spaces over here. And if we use the same on the same image, just the mask, the shadow tolerance 100, it doesn't take out so much red. There's still rasterization in there. It's still stretchable, but not as there's not so much black space in between the red parts. And our eyes, as they function, they mix up the black shirt together with the red printed. And now this looks darker, not as vibrant. So the shadow tolerance, if it's higher, it will basically be more aggressive to the dark colors, and red or forest green or like a navy blue are considered to be a dark color. We'll take out those a bit more aggressively. Here we don't have any gradients in between. This is like an illustration, not a photograph. So here we want to stay with a shadow tolerance of more like 100, while with a dark mask, like with a gradient-based image, like a photograph, we move up our shadow tolerance to 160, 180 in that range. And I have one more for you. If you really like vibrant colors, would be this one over here. Let me just see if you can see the difference. This is the least vibrant image. This is the most vibrant image. This is more vibrant than this one. And I would say this is even more vibrant. And as you can see, this here is shadow tolerance 100 as well. I hope you can read it from above from here. If not, just let me know. Let's just use the zoom camera. But the major difference is that we have increased our saturation in step 3 in TransferRIP by 15%. And increasing our saturation basically oversaturates our colors, and the oversaturation minus the color vibrancy loss that we have with rasterization basically gives us back almost the initial vibrancy as it looks without rasterization.
Those are awesome examples, Chris. A couple of more questions before we end the presentation. Someone wants to know if there is a trial version of the TransferRIP available?
Yes, it is. There's a trial version on www.whitetonertransfer.com, completely for free. If you register it at Forever, it will work for 14 days, completely without any watermarks, without any grid lines, just as a board version. After that, we'll come back with grid lines. And if you want to give it another try, just ask the Conde account sales manager. Maybe they can arrange an extended trial for you. I have one more goodie for you before the presentation.
I was going to say, just to let our audience know, we are offering the 4-color version of the TransferRIP on a promotion during open house. Normally that RIP is $599. We have it available for $499 so that people can take advantage of it. And one more thing, Chris, you do have a tutorial series on the RIP available through Forever, correct?
Correct. On the Hoover app, I already marked the videos. I marked the Forever videos that are available on YouTube. And also I have put in the videos that we did together like 2 or 3 years ago, where we have the transfer presentation made from Conde. So people can watch both tutorial videos and basically just work with those videos that they prefer more.
Okay.
Let me just show you the last goodie that I have for you, which is combination of FlexSoft, combining media, laser dark, no cut low term, and FlexSoft no cut to bring your color vibrancy to the next level. In this case, we separate our image, for example, in Photoshop with the selective color correction, or we just cut out the shade depending what kind of image we have. In this case, I just selected everything that's red in the image and replacing it by FlexSoft. And with the Oki red, we would get a red that looks more like this one over here, which is okay, but some people do like a little bit more vibrant colors and prefer a red that is actually achievable with a white toner printer. For example, this one over here. Can you see the difference in the camera? So this here is FlexSoft red. This is white toner red. We can also use it to, instead of using red, use the metallic colors. And a way to, most of my clients ask me, how can you achieve this? How do you press this actually? And I have prepared 2 transfers ready to apply. So you can see live how I'm going to press this onto a garment. I'll just move the camera out of the way, otherwise I will break it. The first step is basically just have a blank t-shirt like this. I put it in my heat press. Give it just like a 1 second preheat. We're just using the temperature recommended in instructions. In this case, it's about 270 degrees Fahrenheit. So now it's nice and smooth. I already married these 2 sheets together. So I have the neon orange, like the fluorescent orange over here, and this here is the whitener part. And the part that we apply first is always the flex off part, this part over here, because it's much harder to look through this than through this part. So this part will stay over here. We place flex off down here. We press it for like a few seconds. Actually, we can work here, in this case, with about 5 seconds for the first press, because we will press it a second time anyway. So we let this cool, and to cool it down a bit more quickly, we have highly efficient tablets that soak away the heat more quickly. What also works quite well is, for example, a MacBook, because it's made out of aluminum. There we go. Now it should be cold enough. And then we just peel it like that. There we go. So now we have the orange part already on our shirt. We just take it. And now we can take the second part, the adhesive, the emulsion layer already applied, so we save a little bit of time, because I know that I always talk too much in these RIP classes. So I want to save us that time. And then we just align it as we like to. Usually, when I'm aligning it, I'm just looking after 3 or 2 corner points, like, for example, the power over here, that power over there, and these ears have to be in there. And if everything is to your liking, which is really easy to do, because you can see through it, just press it again. This time, we want to press for the full 30 seconds, because we want to give the adhesive enough time to set into the garment, and the adhesive from the flex-off sheet, as well as from the laser dark low temp sheet, will both go into the garment at the same time. We don't do overlap over here. We actually don't press image onto image. We press just image onto garment directly. We could do an overlap if you would like to, but it's much better to just knock out that part, so it's softer and also costs a little bit less toner. So this has been 30 seconds. Move this out of the way. Let this cool off. So where do I have my cooling tablet? There it is. I'm just misusing forever equipment over here. Just to cool it down a bit more quickly. Typical cooling time is about 2 minutes at normal conditions, unless it's summer in Mobile, then you take about 10 minutes. But you actually never have to use ice packs or put it in the freezer. That's never necessary. It just needs to be room temperature. That's good enough for a clean, solid peel. A good way to peel it is just take it and use the palm of your hand over here and apply some pressure to peel it in a very, very flat angle. The less of this crackling noise that you maybe hear, I don't know if the microphone can pick it up, the better it is.
That is an awesome example, Chris. Just wanted to remind everyone, we do have this presentation recorded. We will be rebroadcasting it. If you have any other questions, let us know. Chris, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your support.
Thank you for the invitation, Doug. Looking forward to the next class tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to present sublimation to cotton with Forever Transfer Media. So we have specially transfer media that allows you to use your Sawquest printer with existing sublimation inks to decorate cotton garments. So excited for that as well.
We look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You should have just told me to cut them off.
Did you run the numbers, users up?
I don't understand why that didn't work.